Okay, I have tried filming this 4 times prior to this one. So this is my fifth time. And I have to believe it's so difficult because somebody needs to hear what I'm about to share. So I'm going to talk about how I went in for fibroid surgery and woke up with a diagnosis of stage 4 endometriosis. Um, so as you know, that I had surgery not only in January, but also in the beginning of August. Actually, I don't know if I shared on social media that I had surgery in January, but I did have surgery at the beginning of August, and that was a complete hysterectomy. And I believe you pronounce it oophorectomy, which means you remove the ovaries as well. Now, that is not a cure for endometriosis. There is no cure for endometriosis. However, based on my symptoms, and I got three opinions from three different physicians, it was the best thing for my body. So how do we get here? I have always had heavy menstrual cycles. And if you get squeamish, please scroll past. Um, it was just one of those things where you hear, oh yeah, everybody has a terrible period. And it was that if you didn't have a terrible period, that would be the exception and not the rule. So, so I've got these heavy menstrual cycles, and what happens? My gyno puts me on birth control. So yeah, that helped with my cramps, but it masked a whole lot of problems that were forming underneath that I didn't know about. And I just hated how I felt on birth control. Like I couldn't control my emotions, and it just made me feel wacky. So I stopped taking birth control, and my doctor was pretty annoyed with me, but I didn't care. And I was still getting sick. So she did some testing. I asked about endometriosis. She said there was no evidence of endometriosis, but that I had uterine polyps. So we scheduled a procedure to remove those polyps, and that was supposed to help me get back to normal. So that happened in New York, and then I moved to LA, and then I started getting really sick again. I mean, I'm throwing up and then passing out from the pain and then waking up to throw up again. And I'm in bed for like a solid day or two. So it's really bad. And also, I'm an actor and I'm now in LA. So, it's not like I'm in New York where I can reach out and see if I can do a workshop or a cute regional gig to get insurance weeks. Like, that's not happening out here. So, I was kind of trying to manage everything on my own because, again, I didn't know that there was something more serious happening. So fast forward, I finally get my dream job, which I will not mention because we are on strike and I support the strike. But y'all know what it is. And so I'm continuing to get sick. It seemed like every time I was called to film, I was on my period. And I would basically do my finest acting because nobody wants to be a problem on set. You never want, especially when when it's your first big thing. So, a couple of my coworkers knew, but not many. And, the PAs were very discreet. They would bring me heating pads and Advil. I would be getting sick in my trailer, and then when I would be called to hair and makeup or called to set, I would just get into it, and nobody could tell I was dying inside. So fast forward to we wrap that, and then we have the red carpet, and what I noticed was before the red carpet, I was working out a lot because I was like, I am gonna like be tight and right, ready to look good on these TV screens. And I could not get rid of this little pooch. Like everything else was shrinking, but I looked like I was 2 or 3 months pregnant sometimes, but it wasn't consistent. And that's what was frustrating. So, that happened throughout filming, you know, and thank God for Spanx and an understanding costume team, a wardrobe department. And so even at the red carpet, I start off the evening, everything is snatched and cinched. And by the end of the evening, my period had started. So the pictures I took at the end of the night, I do look like I'm in the early stages of pregnancy. Now, pause. I am a woman over 40. I had made peace with the fact that I probably wasn't going to have kids because I hadn't met the right person yet. But I was still holding out hope, you know, like maybe if I meet the right person, you know, women in my family have had babies well into their late 40s without incident. And I remember when I was married, I things were not going well, and I prayed, God, I need either a baby or a Broadway show. And I got the Broadway show from an open call, so I clearly was not supposed to reproduce with that man. And I was just very intentional with it. Like, I knew that I didn't just want to be a mom. I wanted to create life with somebody I loved and wanted to be connected to for 18 years minimum, you know. And I had just seen so many examples of the trauma that happens when you don't have that. I was like, I will continue to support my friends and family that are in that situation. I just don't want that for myself. So, you know, so after the red carpet, I started getting sick on a regular basis, like outside of my cycle. So I had that good SAG insurance. So my primary doctor referred me to a fertility specialist who's also a gynecologist. She heard my symptoms and she was like, girl, you have time. And I was like, what? Because the minute you turn like 34 in New York, they start mentioning geriatric pregnancy. But she was like, girl, you're in LA. You're in LA. Like, and actually she was the first of two doctors who told me that. And I was shocked. But she did some testing. She saw that I had a fibroid. So we scheduled a surgery to remove the fibroid, which I nicknamed Fibrecia. That was back in January. My parents flew out to support me. I wake up from the surgery back at my house and my doctor calls and I'm looking at the pictures from the surgery and she said, you have one of the worst cases of endometriosis I've ever seen. I was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis. My bowels had fused to my pelvic organs. And because of that, they had also fused to the fibroid. So she couldn't remove the fibroid. She separated the bowel as much as possible so she could even see my uterus. And she said, I had countless ovarian cysts. She couldn't even see my fallopian tubes. And based on the conditions, that it would be impossible for me to carry a child and that she was recommending a full hysterectomy. Now, I was not expecting that at all. And I started the grieving process and I started the journey that some of you have probably seen if you've been paying attention to my content. And the whole situation has really caused me to question everything that I've been taught as a woman, as a girl who was raised in the church, especially with the providing the desires of your heart piece, which I'll get into in later videos. But long story short, I did have to have a hysterectomy, a complete hysterectomy on August 1st. And so I'm in menopause and I'm making it fabulous, darling, fabulous. Because I mean, if I have to go through it, I'm gonna have fun with it. Now, do I want to be talking about this to everybody on the internet? No, absolutely not, which is why I've been putting this off. But I do feel like we don't talk about stuff like this enough. We don't advocate for ourselves. And if I hadn't had such an amazing gynecologist out here who referred me to my amazing surgeon, she actually assisted on my surgery, and I had to have a bowel resection too because endometriosis has basically spread throughout my body. Again, there is no cure for it, but my worst symptoms were definitely they actually took them away. I mean, my quality of life is so much better, but I still have it and I'm pissed off about it. And this good girl is really examining all of the good girl tropes. So if you'll join me on this journey, my content's gonna look a little bit different these days, but I hope that what I share can help somebody, even if it's just to have you go into the doctor's office and really, really, really advocate for yourself. And if you're not being heard, finding a new doctor. But yeah, I'll talk more about my surgery and my recovery, because I knew I was going to have to share this at some point. I knew I was going to share this at some point. Today's the day.